Mutations. We ended by talking about how some mutations can be beneficial and they survive and others have no effect. Some mutations may provide a selective advantage in changing conditions. And a selective advantage is a genetic advantage that improves on an organism's chance of survival in usually in a changing environment. So when I told you that this was the basis for the theory of evolution, and that's where we stopped. This activity today was our example for how that procedure happens. Flip the page. Find me this guy here. So, natural selection. Oh, and Evelyn's leaving. Evelyn was the one that asked what this was. She can watch the video. So, natural selection. Natural selection is what you guys saw happen today. It's the process by which characteristics of a population change. You guys were the population of birds. You started with 4 different kinds of beaks, and we whittled it down to 2. And there was definitely a dominant beak type. It's the process by which organisms or characteristics of a population change over many generations. We only did 3 generations. And generally speaking, in the natural world, generations are a lot longer than what you just experienced. But in lots of animals, the generations are still way quicker than they are in people. You guys were born 15, 16 years ago, and you still haven't had kids yourself. That's totally fine. And I would encourage you not to for a while yet. But if you were actually birds, by the time you were 16, if you survived that long, you would have been having your own offspring every year, starting at maybe 1 or 2. So if you were a surviving bird at your current age, 15 or 16 years old, you yourself would have 15 generations of offspring. You'd have great grandchildren. And in different populations, this happens really, really fast. Other populations, it happens a lot slower. Elephants have 1 kid every 3 years, and they don't start having their own offspring until they're like 5 or 6. To get pregnant, once an elephant is pregnant, it takes about 3 years for that baby to get to the point where it can be successfully delivered. People do it in 9 months. Elephants do it in about 3 years. They're pregnant for about 3 years. I mean, when you look at the size of that organism, it takes time to grow, right? So generations happen differently in different kinds of populations. And it says, as organisms with heritable traits survive and reproduce, passing their traits onto their offspring. Heritable just means any trait that you can successfully pass on. I'll read the definition one more time, and I want you to give me, there is a phrase that we use to sum up what we're talking about here. Natural selection, the process by which characteristics of a population change. Put your phone away. Characteristics of a population change over many generations as organisms with heritable traits survive and reproduce, passing their traits to their offspring. In a 4-word phrase, how could you sum up this idea? The letters of the starting letters of each word in the phrase are S-O-T-F. Survival of the fittest. That is natural selection. Mahip, did you go to Tenbrook? I went to Tenbrook. How was it? It was a good time. It was. They built onto it while I was there, so it started small and got big. 50-50. Split, about 50-50. I don't know. Nowadays, I don't know. Okay, so fittest. When I say fittest, okay, it's her notes. Okay, that's fine. Okay, when I say fittest, I want to define this word for you here. When I say fittest, I don't just mean, so when we talk about fitness in a human population, you guys, your brain probably goes straight to the people who work out, Who is the fittest? Well, those are maybe the people in your mind. Maybe those are the people who are at the gym. Maybe you're thinking about the biceps, the abs. When we think about fitness in Western culture, that might be what we're talking about. But that's not what I'm talking about here in this. Survival of the fittest does not just mean these are the strongest physically. Fittest means you have the best traits for an environment. And your environment will determine your level of fitness. For example, here's what I mean. If I were to ask you to describe for me the ideal firefighter, what would you say? Give me some traits of the person best suited to fight a fire. Evelyn. Okay, so someone with quick reflexes. Give me another trait of a good firefighter. Strong. So someone with good reflexes, someone who is strong. A degree of bravery. Okay, cool. Okay? So that's your ideal firefighter. Generally speaking, when we think of firefighters, what else do we think of? Like, there's a particular trait I'm looking for. We already talked about, we have braveness, we have already. So a degree of endurance, stamina is important. Keep going. Okay. Talk to me about their build. Generally, they've got to be strong. So they're often fairly muscular, broad, and generally speaking, firefighters are often very tall. Not always, but often firefighters are big people. Whether they're men or women, they're tall. Either the dudes are often very, very tall, and the women are never going to be as tall as dudes because that's just the way human populations work. But the women themselves are very strong. Don't want to mess with a firefighter in a dark alley. They're not going to hurt you, but they could. Okay? But if I asked you to, so that's your firefighter. That's a particular environment. Here's another environment. Describe for me your ideal jockey. A horse racer, someone who's racing horses. Short, very short. The shorter the better. Why? Yeah, because you're in a very compact space. The stirrups are high. What else? Tell me something else about horseback racers. Little, light. You want to be short and you want to be slender because you don't want to impede the horse's ability to run. If you are a firefighter racing horses, you are going to lose. So the environment determines what we call fittest. If we go to the most extreme physical sport on the planet, I would argue, is done by a particular group of Japanese, almost exclusively men. If I asked you to describe for me the ideal sumo wrestler, how would you describe the ideal sumo wrestler? Huge in every way. Like physically, it's very difficult. It looks painful. Oh, you got to be big, tall, and massive. A 400-pound sumo wrestler is light in the degree of sumo wrestlers. But what else? What other physical traits does a sumo wrestler need to have? Very strong. You can't just be heavy. You got to be real strong. These guys are explosive. It's the same kind of speed and like you have for like an NFL American football offensive lineman. These guys, yeah, and a particular position in rugby. These guys are huge people that need to have large burst speed. So again, their environment determines what we consider fittest. There are principles of natural selection. Do I want to start this yet? No, we're going to call it here. So, no, don't start talking to other people. So, this is what we'll start here. We'll give you the ideas of natural selection. Your homework, I want you to finish up the reflection for the activity that we did today. Tomorrow, we'll talk about principles of natural selection. If we could push the desks back to where they go, I would really appreciate it. When the bell goes, you may also go. Have yourselves a great day. We'll continue this tomorrow.